Y'all don't have to go too far, but look at your neighbor and say, you're going to make it to the other side. You're going to make it to the other side. I want to read something here really quick out of Matthew chapter 14. Matthew chapter 14, verse 22 through 32. Stay with me. Somebody say immediately. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that the disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent other people home. After sending them home, he went up by the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land. Look at your neighbor and say, trouble. For a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. Strong wind and heavy waves. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said, "take courage. I'm here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you, walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the other side, or over the side of the boat, and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong winds, somebody say winds, and the waves, he was terrified, and he began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Some of you today are in such a trial and such a storm. You're going through such a mess. It's hard for you to believe that this is going to stop. And so I want to start this morning with a quick introduction like this. It doesn't matter how big your storm is. It doesn't matter what situation you're going through right now. Jesus is going to come, and he's going to help you in the middle of your storm. And look at your neighbor and say, we're getting to the other side. It may not look like it right now, but we're getting to the other side. It may not feel like it right now, but we are getting to the other side. And I want to tell you this morning, you didn't come to fail and you didn't come to quit. You are going to get to the other side. So I'm going to give you a free warning. I have no notes today, so all my note takers, you're on your own. You just get ready for it. Look at somebody say, get ready for it. I want to give you some context before I get to this story, because sometimes if we don't understand the context, the story loses its power. I want you to understand that everywhere that Jesus went, he made an impact. Jesus showed up to a wedding that was set for disaster, but Jesus turned the wedding feast around. Jesus found a woman who was hovered over for years and couldn't walk, and as soon as he passed by, her troubles straightened out. Everywhere that Jesus went, he made an impact. He went to Jairus' house and his daughter was healed. He went to Peter's house and their mother-in-law got healed. That might not be a miracle for you, but it was for the mother-in-law. Everywhere he went, he made an impact. And I just want to take a moment. I wonder what it was like to be dirt when the Savior stepped on it for the first time. I wonder what it was like. Oh, gosh, help me. I wonder what it was like to be water when the master was baptized in the water. I wonder if the water was thinking, should I embrace him? Should I go? I wonder what the flowers were thinking when the one who gave them fragrance was passing by. I wonder if they bowed when they saw this. I wonder if when the sun shined, he was a little hesitant to shine on the creator of the earth. Here was the creator of creation walking amongst creation, and everywhere he went, something happened. And I'm here to tell you today, your life is not in vain. Where God sends you, he's about to stir something up. He's about to move something around wherever he sends you. Look at your neighbor and say, wherever. I'm so honored here in this story to see that the first assignment that Jesus carries out was to pick 11 disciples. You may say, Pastor, it was 12 disciples. No. You're not reading the story in context. Jesus only picked 11 disciples. The 12th disciple was Andrew. Jesus didn't pick Andrew. Andrew picked Jesus. Andrew was John's disciple. Some people need to be invited. But Andrew was there when John stood on the bank of the seashore and said, behold, the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. And Andrew didn't wait for an invitation. When he saw that it was Jesus, he left all that he had and he followed him. And I know that there are some people today that are tired of waiting for somebody else, but there's some Andrews in this place that aren't going to wait to be called. I'm following after you, Jesus. I'm running after. Look what I found. I found the one I've been waiting for all my life. Jesus picks the disciples, picks the 11. He picks Andrew. Andrew was different because Andrew not only prepared the way, but Andrew worked in the way. That's why he was important to this lesson, because in this lesson that we're about to see, before they got into the boat, they experienced something incredible on land. Jesus was teaching the multitudes, and the disciples said, hey, you got to send them away. They haven't eaten. And he said, no, don't send them away. You feed them. We feed them, yeah, feed them. And here's what he said, and this is why Andrew was so important, because Andrew was organizing the lines of baptisms in the ministry of John the Baptist. Are you tracking with me? He had skills in organization. And it's important. Isn't it amazing that Jesus waited in line, but some of us don't? I'm going to find you somewhere today. Listen to me, man. Some of us have not stepped into the best that God has for us because you want to skip processes. And if Jesus can wait in line, my friend, so can. Look at your neighbor and say, don't be such a rush. Jesus waited in line. Andrew saw him. Now Andrew's with Jesus. And Jesus says, we got to feed the 5,000. Somebody say the 5,000. The problem was that Jesus is not a God of chaos. God is a God of order. And so he says, before the miracle can happen, I need order. He says, you got to organize these 5,000. Somebody say 5,000. Now, you know that was just men. They didn't count women, and they didn't count kids. So you're talking about 15,000 people. And when we're talking about people who didn't get counted, let me tell you how the miracle started. The miracle didn't start with the 5,000 men. The miracle started with those that nobody counted. The fish wasn't held by the 5,000 men. It was held by the little boy in the corner. And you may think like the world's forgotten you and you got nothing to offer. But I promise you, when the world counts you out, God has been counting on your 2 fish and your 5 loaves of bread. You felt like you didn't come in with anything today, but you got everything you need for God to set you up for the miracle He's planned in your life. But there is no miracle until there is organization. And that's what's wrong with a whole lot of Christians today. We want the miracle power of God, but we don't want the organization of God. If you read the book, Jesus insisted. Another translation says Jesus made them get in the boat. And here's what we want. We want Jesus to come to us, but nobody wants to get in the boat. We want Jesus to come to us and multiply our situation, but nobody wants to go ahead and organize and get yourself in order. Look at somebody, say organize. You're not going to believe this, but Sunday comes every 8th day. When? And 8 days from now it's going to be. And 8 days from then it'll be. And 8 days from then it'll be. Why is it so hard to get to church if you know it's coming in 8 days? You know what's going to come in a few hours? 5 o'clock in the morning. You know when 5 o'clock in the morning comes? Every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Why is it so hard to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and read your Bible? Oh, you want me to go back to Yeshua? Yes, you. There's no miracle without organization. You want to organize your kids' sports life. You want to organize their entertainment life. And then you gamble with their spiritual life. Nobody wants to hear this morning. I know you can't. Look at your neighbor and say, I came to the wrong service today. And here he is, setting up a miracle. And I'm going to say this to you about the little boy. God will never ask you something out of your hand that he doesn't intend to multiply. I know a lot of people don't like talking about money, but you better understand the one thing you talk about more than anything else is how broke, how good, or how bad you have it. All that changes when you take what's in your hand and you trust him to put it in his hand. Someone say miracles. Miracles. Jesus then sends everybody on the boat. He sends them on the boat, and Jesus does something I never noticed. I just never noticed this. He dismisses the 15,000 people while he sends his disciples on the boat. Don't you ever let the enemy tell you you're not important for personal visitation from Jesus. Don't ever feel that you're too anointed. Hey, I'm anointed. That you can't go out and dismiss people and love on people. Too much superstar. Look at somebody say, too many superstars. Get out here and love on people just like Jesus did. After Jesus dismissed the people, the Bible said he went to the mountain to pray. Somebody say pray. Jesus went to the mountain to pray. Sometimes you got to get alone by yourself to pray, because your future is riding on your prayer life. How many got a praying mama? Thank God for praying mamas. Thank God for praying grandmas. But after a while, God ain't listening to them if you ain't praying for yourself. You got to stop living off of somebody else's prayer. We're going to be like Jesus. If you're going to get to the other side, come on, you got to be loaded. Look at somebody say loaded. You got to love to spend time with God. You got to love to get along with God. Somebody say get along with God. And so the disciples begin their journey as Jesus is up on the mountain. And again, let me just take a moment. And here's where a lot of people lose their faith. They want Jesus to come in the boat. Jesus, I ain't going if you tell me to. If you ain't coming with me, I ain't going. And Jesus is like, no, you need to go because I told you. Well, if I'm going to go, you got to bring my sister. Your sister will come in time. I need you to go because I called you to. You can't wait for somebody else to get in the boat Jesus called you to be in. Does that make sense? If Jesus called you to the boat, look at your neighbor and say, you got to get in there. Pastor, what if it doesn't work out? What if it does? Look at your neighbor and say, ask yourself the right question. So obediently, they stepped in the boat, and then all of a sudden, the storm began to rage. Somebody say the storm. Have you ever been on the ocean? I've been on the river. I love the river. Give me jet skis, give me a boat, pull me behind. I love the river. And I thought going out to the ocean would be a piece of cake. You guys know last summer I went fishing in Alaska. And they're like, hey, you want to fish on the ocean? I said, oh boy, let's go. I got me a big old sandwich, got me some chips, some soda, and we was going fishing on the ocean. And after about 2 hours of being on the edge of that boat, my stomach started speaking a language I didn't understand. I said, oh my, I'm going to go back inside and just kind of sit here and relax a little bit. An hour went by, I wasn't changing nothing. Come on, a little longer went by and nothing was changing. Somebody say nothing was changing. The captain goes, if you want to get rid of that feeling in your stomach, you got to get to the edge of the boat and let it all go. Sometimes the storm is going to make you feel ways you didn't think you were going to feel. You weren't anticipating that emotion. Where did that emotion come from? You were anticipating that response. Where did that response come from? Nobody knows what they're made out of until you meet the storm. So here they are. They're in a boat, and it's not this action here. These guys are fishermen. They're not afraid of this action. They don't get bubble guts on the waves. They're seeing this. Everybody been out on the ocean when there's big waves? What accompanies big waves? Harsh winds. Harsh winds, big waves, harsh winds. Somebody say big waves, harsh winds. You thought serving Jesus was going to be easy. You didn't know that obeying Jesus sometimes would put you in a boat. And sometimes that boat would get caught in a storm. And in that storm, there were harsh winds and big waves. And if you've ever been a part of that, here's what you know. Come on, stay with me. Look at somebody, say, stay with him. That no matter how hard you row, it seems like you're getting nowhere. And you're rowing and you're not getting anywhere. And then on top of that, you got the waves, you got the wind, and then what does the wind do? Splash salt water in your face. And you got to row. Somebody say row. And you got to keep rowing. And here's the first thing I want to tell you about your storm. You can't stop rowing in the storm. But Pastor, I've been doing this for so long, I'm not getting anywhere. Keep rowing. Pastor, I've been reading my Bible. It doesn't feel like things are changing. Keep rowing. You've got to learn to keep keeping on no matter what's going on in your life. Why? Because although the storm is big, so are you. And you got to remind yourself, who asked you to get in the boat? If Jesus asked you to get in the boat, then keep rowing. You may say, Pastor Eli, what if I get tired? Keep rowing. Because here's what I'm going to tell you right now. Everybody just put your eyes up here because I don't want to give nobody away. Just keep your eyes up here. Ready? Every one of us have met people in this journey who got into a storm and stopped rowing. They quit. They stopped. And now where are they? They're further back than they ever were. But I wasn't making progress, but you were in the fight. You were doing what God told you to do. It's not always glitz and glamour out here. It's not always paparazzi and show out here. Sometimes you got to stand when the waves are big and they come down the other way and there's water splatting in your face and you want to quit because nobody called you. You want to quit because nobody said anything good to you. You want to quit because nobody acknowledged you. But I came to tell you right now, don't stop rowing. Don't stop. What do you do when the world's against you, but God called you to stay in that boat and row? There are times, I'm going to be honest with you, James, there are times your strength runs out. There's times your wisdom runs out. There's times your ability runs out, and God is telling you, keep on rowing. Pastor, I'm going through a financial crisis, and God says, keep rowing. Pastor, I'm going through a marital crisis. God says, keep rowing. How do you row when you've got no more strength? Are you ready? I got an answer for you. There's times in this life where you got to roll with your heart. Pastor Eli, what do you mean? You know, it hurts so bad when you're holding on and nobody seems to care. You know why it hurts so bad? Because you went from rowing from your body to rowing with your conviction. Your heart doesn't have feet, so it hurts, but row anyways. Oh, I know, man. I know. Sometimes you got to row just with your heart. I don't love you anymore. I'm leaving this relationship. Pastor, but it hurts. I don't keep rowing. You're going to lose the house. You got bankruptcy notice coming your way. What are you going to do? Family left you, tells you they don't love you. What are you going to do? This light affliction is not worthy to be compared with the glory that's on the other side. I got a word. I'm in a storm, but he said, I'll see you on the other side. And if God told you he was going to see you on the other side, then you row until there's nothing left. You row and you keep on rowing. See you on the other side, he said. If that's what he said, he's not a man that he should lie, or the son of man that he should repent. This storm that you're going through right now, it's not a storm that arrived to take you out. It's a storm that came to take you up. Anybody ever been on an airplane? Did you ever take off in one direction in the airplane and then watch the airplane turn around? Anybody know why they do that? Because in order for a plane to elevate, it requires contrary wind. It doesn't fly with the wind, it flies against the wind to elevate. That's why God has you in that situation. Because if you wouldn't have been in that situation, you'd have been at the same level you were all your life. That this very thing you're in right now, tell your neighbor, say, the storm didn't come to destroy you. The storm came to take you to another level. I want to know, is anybody going to another level? Is anybody going to another level? Is anybody going to keep on rowing in this place? While I'm on the subject of planes, anybody here remember how your plane got from parked position to launch position? Did the pilot just drop the plane into reverse? No, they have a little trolley that hooks up to the front of that plane, and it starts pushing the plane. You know why the trolley's pushing the plane? Because planes don't have reverse in the engine. You weren't created to go backwards. Paul said, we're not those kind of people who start and quit. We're not the kind of people that got in this to finish, and we're not here to back up. But sometimes God has to send something in your life to push you so that you can get in position to launch. I know I'm talking to somebody right now. You thought the storm came to kill you, but the storm is positioning you to take you to a place. And so the storm is raging, and the storm is raging, and the Bible says that the disciples are afraid. Can I say something to you? It's okay to be afraid as long as you're obeying. All right. They're afraid. They're showing their humanity. They don't know what's going on. And some of you would say, Pastor, why would Jesus let this happen? Why is he up on the mountain when his team is in a storm? He picked them. Why is he on the mountain when this team is on the storm? I'm giving you nuggets today. I'm preaching to encourage your spirit today. I know I got points for you normally. I don't want points today. God took over this whole service. I want to inject something inside of you that you got to get your grip on like a bulldog and clamp down. And don't you ever forget what I'm about to tell you next. Why did Jesus go to the mountain and the disciples were in a storm? Because almost 3,000 years earlier, David would write in the Psalms, lift your eyes toward the hills from whence comes your help. God wants you to remember while you're in the storm, you got to get the habit of putting your eyes on where your help comes from. Get your eyes off the storm for a minute. Get your eyes off the waves for a minute and put your eyes on Jesus. The storm, the storm, the storm, the storm, the storm. The storm, we worry so much about the negative things in our life. We see the things that aren't working. We see the things that aren't moving for us. But could it be a possibility that God had a plan for that storm in your life? That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to, to help you see today. Look at somebody, say the storm. Now I'm going to take you to this next place. The Bible says that they see something and they're afraid of it. They think it's a ghost. They yelled out, "It's a ghost!" Now, you know, fishermen got all kind of stories. Sailors have all kind of stories about what they see out in the water. But Peter walked with Jesus. The disciples walked with Jesus, but they couldn't recognize him. Sometimes in the storm, he needs to show up in a way you haven't seen him yet. Listen to me, man. I didn't get a chance to give you the whole introduction I wanted you to give you today because I feel like the Holy Spirit was doing some different things. But if you can't tell, our country's in a storm. Every religious belief, every value, every core value we have as believers is being attacked at every level and on every hand. And we keep looking for Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes. Or you're looking for Jesus with a big sombrero and a big old bullet by his side. I don't know how you're looking for Jesus, but I'm telling you, in the storm, you got to keep your eyes open because he may not show up the way you're used to seeing him. He shows up to Peter and the 12 disciples, and don't you know it? He doesn't calm the storm. He doesn't stop the storm. The storm rages on. Because Jesus was building this team, and he wanted them to know that stuff doesn't stop when the storms come. Gotta keep going. Thank you, Junior. Now, how many of you have ever seen this story in your mind? When you read it, do you picture the story? The storms, the wind, the water, up, down, up, down. Can I tell you one more thing about that? You ever been to the ICU? You go visit somebody in the ICU, and they have this monitor hooked up to them, right? And if their heart's slow, it goes beep, beep, beep. And if they get agitated, it goes beep, 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 beep. Right? And what sound do you not want to hear? Beep. Because when you hear the beep, it's over. What do you think the storms are in your life? Beep, beep. Here's what you don't want. Don't you live a life without a storm. Don't you live life without up or down. Don't you live life without struggles and challenges. Because the day you do, you've hit a beep. God is showing us today that in this life you're going to have tribulations. But it's my plan to keep you alive. It's my plan to keep you moving. Look at somebody and say, don't stay still. So Jesus shows up to the boat. And he doesn't calm the storm. And I'm 52 years old. And I've heard this story more than you got hair on your head. And every time I see this story, here's how I see Peter getting out. Of course, right? Wait. How do you get out like that when the boat is this and this? Here and here. Everybody wants to go to Jesus, but nobody wants to go out of the boat in the middle of the storm. Jesus, can you calm it down a little bit before I get out? And Jesus goes, if you really want to come to me, then you got to figure out how to get out of that boat. This ain't, some of you child from the 80s, 70s, and 80s, come on, stay with me. This ain't the Love Boat. This ain't the Love Boat, y'all. We're in the middle of a storm. It's just 2 sizes bigger than a canoe. Jesus, is it you? Yes, it's me, Peter. If it's you, bid me come. Come, Peter. You got a life jacket? Is there a program? Is there another person? No, Peter. I gave you a word. Get out of the boat. if you keep waiting for the storm to calm, you're going to sit in that boat and miss the other side. Peter gets out of the boat the best that he can. Remember I was talking to you about airplanes? Not everything seems the way you and I see it. Remember when the Bible talked about Jacob, when he started his journey and he puts his head on the pillow and he saw angels and descending? You know what I saw? I saw big old angel wings up and down. But the problem was that Jacob saw a ladder. So in order to get up the ladder, you got to use the rungs. So the angels were climbing up and climbing down. Peter had to get out of that boat, but it didn't look so good. Pastor, you're like, what are you saying? If you've been on an airplane, they don't measure the speed the way you do on a car, do they? They don't measure the force like you do in the car, do they? They'll tell you, we're doing X amount of knots, and we're doing this many, whatever your case. But isn't it amazing, out of all the aeronautical measurements they use, that when they tell you how high you are, we're now flying at 10,000 meters. What they say? Apparently nobody's been on a plane here before. We're now flying at 25,000 feet. Why is it that even today, with all the modern terms, when we go to heaven, we talk about feet? Because you don't get to skip rungs. You don't get to skip processes. You don't get to skip the journey. If you want to get to heaven, you got to walk there. If you want to get out of the boat, you got to walk there. If you want to get where God wants you, you don't get to skip something because you got a good gift. You don't get to skip something because you look good. You got to take every step, one step at a time. Gets out of the boat. When he gets out of the boat, I'm coming to an end for my introduction. Stay with me. Comes to the boat. Peter steps out in the storm. What was he afraid of? He was afraid of the storm. What was he afraid of? He was afraid of the storm. What does he get into? He gets into the storm. And let's look at this for just a moment. Who tells them to get in the boat? So they were being obedient, right? Did Peter hear the word? He heard it. All 12 of them heard it. He was obedient. He heard the word. Did Peter see Jesus? He had vision. Stay with me. He was obedient. He heard the word of the Lord. He had vision. Was Jesus near Peter? Was he near him? The answer is yes. You can't see somebody's not near you, right? So was he in the presence of God? Obedient, heard the word. Come on, stay with me, preach with me. What else? He had vision, thank you. And he has the presence of God. And here's the final thing. He had a now word. Come. Pastor, you're like, why did you just go through all of that? Because some of us think that when we obey God, have vision, get a word from God, and get in the presence of God, that somehow we're not supposed to be in a storm. We got churches, man, listen to me, we got Christians that don't know how to fight. My son, Zion, he's with us today. And I always a joy to have my boy, especially since he's been in the military. It's good to have him. And there's people, I'm not going to call names because then I put them out like that. But I've said this before, I'll say it again. There's certain people I want with me when I'm in a fight. You know what I mean? If you get like cold feet when you're in a fight, I don't want to fight with you. You go make enchiladas somewhere. Go peel potatoes. When the war comes, I want somebody who's going to grit their teeth, clench their fists. Not guaranteed to win, but I'm getting in this battle. You follow what I'm saying? We've got too many Christians who don't know that the obedience doesn't make us exempt from storms. That vision doesn't make us exempt from storms. Come on, somebody, you got a word from the Lord. That doesn't make you exempt from the process. Process, look at someone say process. We come to church and we think because we get a little anointing, somebody say a little unction. Now you're Mr. Anointed for the world. Process. Storm. Josiah, you're going to go through a storm. Better learn to be a storm fighter. All right. Peter's walking on the water, and what happens? The challenge he stepped into, he started to sink. He started to sink. When Jesus invited Peter on this journey, what did he say he would make him? David was a sheep before he was a shepherd. And to this point, Peter never knew what it was like to be fished. Is that bad English? I don't know if it's bad English or not. I didn't look it up. He didn't know. Jesus is like, come on, I want to teach you to be fishers of men. But he didn't know what that was like. Where do you fish for men? Where do you find sheep? In a field. Where do you find fish? In troubled waters. You can't help people if you're not ready to put your hand in the storm and into the depths of cold water to bring them out of their situation. God had to let Peter his training come to fruition so that he understood what it meant to be a fisher of men. Your trial right now, God is making you uncomfortable because he's going to have you reach people who are sinking in stuff you used to sink in. Come on, I don't know who's going to play the piano, but I'm trying to come to an ending here. I'm going to give this over to Frank and Letty just a minute. Any good fishermen here? Anybody good? No? So y'all go where I go to Walmart to catch your fish? You know what I love about fishing? My favorite part of fishing is the cast. A little weight on it. You know what I'm saying, Austin? A little weight on it. Bzzz. The longer the lasts, the better I feel. How do you think Peter was feeling when he was sinking? Do you think he was waiting for the bzzz? Is it amazing that the Bible said that all Jesus did when Peter started sinking was stretch out his hand? How did Jesus know where to be when Peter was sinking? Because Jesus knows your limits. He knows your strengths. He knows your weaknesses. And this storm, I'm going to say it again, this storm you're going through didn't come to kill you. It came to elevate you. Jesus wants to capture your heart. Jesus wants to capture your mind. He wants to capture your life so that tomorrow when you get to the other side, Peter becomes the fisher of men because he knows what it's like to have been surrounded by things you thought you were going to get over, to be surrounded by pain you thought you had to get over, to be surrounded by people's opinions and attacks of the enemies. He knew what it was like to be sinking and to have Jesus extend his hand and pull him out. You've been called to be a fisher of men. You've been called to pull people out. I want to prophesy to you for just a moment. Let me prophesy to you just a moment. God is about to turn your world right side up. You're here hearing this message, and I felt this before I got here today. Some of you watching, this is what the Holy Spirit told me directly from the East Coast. Some of you on the East Coast watching right now, God said it's time to open your house because your friends and your neighbors need what you've been getting all this time. It's time to open your doors and to prove what God is saying to you is real. He's healing your body right where you're sitting right now. I don't know where you are on the East Coast, but when you get this message, open your life, stretch out your hand, pick somebody up out of that water, because God's doing a miracle in your life. I'm going to prophesy to you as well. Stop cursing your storm and start giving God the praise, because He's picking you up and He's elevating you. You never knew how capable you were, and this storm is going to show you that some of you are a prophet in the making. Some of you are preachers in the making. Some of you are life group leaders in the making. Some of you are songwriters in the making. Some of you are entrepreneurs in the making. And the only way God could get it out of you was He had to bring the storm to you so that He could get you out of your boat. He's getting you out of your boat. He's getting you out of your boat. He's getting you out of your boat.
Jesus,
I did not leave.
Follow me like this.
He did not leave.
He did not leave.
Peter on the water.
Peter on the water.
He took him by the hand.
But He took him by the hand.
Louder. Took him by the hand.
But He took him by the hand.
And they together.
And they together
began to walk
on
the storm.
on the storm
That he was sinking in.
that He was sinking in.
This morning.
This morning.
This morning.
This morning.
Jesus is going to.
Jesus is going to
Take you by the hand.
take you by the
And
hand.
He's going to walk you back.
And He's going to walk you back
to your miracle.
to your miracle.
To your miracle.
To your miracle.
To your miracle. You may have sunk yesterday, but you walking back today. You may have thought you was going to end in the ocean, but my friend, you're going to make it to the other side because she promised you would. You're going to get there.